Hey there, it's so good to have you here. Whether you're listening in with curiosity, seeking clarity, or just happen to stumble across this topic, I want to welcome you into a conversation that's rarely spoken about with honesty, what makes sex truly unforgettable for a man. Now, before your mind rushes to the usual answers, positions there, intensity, newness, I want to invite you to look a little deeper, because the truth is, for all the noise and bravado we sometimes associate with men and sex, the things that actually leave a mark on a man's heart are much more subtle and far more powerful. You see, while many men might enjoy the thrill of the moment, what they carry with them, the memory they revisit at night or in a moment of nostalgia, is almost never about just the physical. It's about the feeling. It's about the way a woman made him feel seen, safe, and significant in a world that often tells men to be strong, silent, and invulnerable. The moments that linger are the ones where he was able to drop back to be his real self and still be desired. That's rare, that's powerful, and that's unforgettable. So if you're wondering what it is that stays with a man long after the sheets are cold and the moment has passed, you're in the right place. This isn't about games, techniques, or scripts. This is about the real stuff, the emotional core of intimacy, the things most people don't teach you. And by the end of this, I promise that you'll look at connection and your own power within it in a completely different way. When people talk about unforgettable sex, they often jump straight to the physical, how wild it was, how adventurous, how new. What most don't realize is that the kind of sex a man remembers for years, sometimes forever, rarely has anything to do with physical intensity and almost everything to do with how emotionally safe he felt in that moment. See, most men aren't even taught the language for emotional safety. They grow up learning how to chase, how to impress, how to perform, not how to be soft, not how to be real, not to actually feel during intimacy. So when a woman shows up in a way that says, you don't have to prove anything to me, you can just be, it's disarming in the most beautiful way. It's in those quiet, unguarded moments where he doesn't feel like he's being judged, compared, or evaluated that something deeper happens. For a man, emotional safety means he doesn't the pressure to act a certain way, doesn't feel like he has to be perfect, doesn't feel like he has to hold it all together there. And when that kind of space is created, when he feels free to laugh, to be awkward, to mess up, to take his time, that's where unforgettable sex is born. It becomes less about the performance and more about the presence. He's not focused on the outcome, on whether he's doing it right. He's immersed in the connection, the shared breath, the honesty in your eyes, the ease in your touch. The emotional safety says, I see you right here, right now. And the second a man feels that, the connection deepens beyond the physical. He lets go of the armor he's carried all day, all life, even in that release. That trust is what makes the moment unforgettable. Not because it was perfect, but because it was real. And in a world where most people are just playing roles, even in the bedroom, that kind of authenticity feels rare. It becomes the contrast to every forgettable experience. When he looks back, he won't remember the lighting, the playlist, or even what position you were in. Realize that there. Remember the way your presence made him feel fully accepted. That's the difference between sex and soulful intimacy. One scratches a physical itch, the other nourishes something far deeper. And here's the true thing: when a woman creates that emotionally safe space, not just with her words, but with her energy, her acceptance, her trust, she becomes the exception. She becomes the experience that he compares everything else to. And it's not because she tried to be unforgettable. It's because she dared to be real there. And in doing so, gave him permission to be real too. That's the kind of intimacy that doesn't fade. That's the kind of memory that lingers. That's what the emotional safety does. It makes sex unforgettable, not because it looked amazing, because it felt like home. They're one of the biggest myths around sex, and especially when it comes to what men want, is that it's all about performance, about doing it right, about impressing him with moves, techniques, or tricks you saw somewhere online. But what so few people understand is that what makes an intimate moment truly unforgettable for a man is not the performance, it's the presence. Think about it, we live in a world where everyone's trying to get it right, where people are constantly wondering if they're attractive enough, wild enough, good enough. And yet, realize in the middle of all that noise, the most magnetic thing in the bedroom, is someone who's fully there, who's not distracted by self-doubt, insecurities, or perform anxiety, but simply connected to you in the moment. when a woman is present, emotionally, mentally, physically. It's a form of intimacy that goes far beyond the physical. There, you can feel it in the way she looks at you, in how her touch lingers, in how she responds, not automatically, but authentically. It's not about trying to impress, it's about expressing herself. Her pleasure, her desire, curiosity, that's when sex becomes not just an act, but a conversation, a wordless, passionate exchange where both people are tuned in, not trying to reach a destination, but savoring every moment of the journey. And here's the truth most men won't even articulating there. When a woman is truly present with him, it makes him feel chosen, not just for what he can do or how he looks, but for who he is. That presence tells him, I'm not just here to check a box or put on a show. I'm here because I want to be, because I'm connected to you. And when a man feels that, it breaks through every surface level experience he's had. Suddenly about ego anymore. It's not about winning or impressing. It becomes about feeling. Real, human, messy, that they're electric feeling. And it makes him want to stay, not just in the moment, but in the memory. The presence you bring into intimacy has the power to ground him in a way that very few things do. There, and the most beautiful part, you don't have to be perfect to be present. You don't need to know every move or have the perfect body or say all the right things. You just need to be there, fully, honestly, genuinely. And when you do, you shift the entire energy of the moment. You move from performance to connection, from friction to fusion, from good to unforgettable, because presence isn't just powerful, it's rare. And in a world, most people were physically there but emotionally absent, your presence becomes the very thing that makes you unforgettable to him. Not just in that moment, but in his heart. For a long time after, there's something magnetic about a confident woman, but not the kind of confidence that screams for attention or tries to dominate the room. Not the kind built on ego or perfection or comparison, but the kind that's quiet, calm, and deeply rooted in self-acceptance. That's the kind of confidence that makes a man's heart slow down. That makes him lean in, make sex, and the connection surrounding it truly unforgettable. You see, ego always tries to perform. It says, look at me, approve of me, tell me I'm enough. But true confidence doesn't need the spotlight. It's already at peace with itself. And when a woman brings that energy into intimacy, it completely shifts the experience. She's not asking for validation. She's sharing herself. She's not trying to impress. She's inviting connection. And that is such a rare and beautiful thing. A confident woman doesn't second guess her body, doesn't apologize for her desires, doesn't hold back out of fear of being too much. She owns her space. She knows she's allowed to receive pleasure, not just give it. She knows that sex isn't a performance to win someone over. It's an experience to enjoy, explore, and build deeper connection through. And the irony is, when she's not trying to be perfect, realize that there she becomes irresistible. Why? Because real confidence gives permission. It says, I'm okay with myself, and you get to be okay with yourself too. That's powerful. That's grounding. And for a man, especially one who's used to carrying the weight of performance and pressure himself, it's freeing. When he's with a woman who doesn't need to dominate the space, but simply owns her space, it allows him to drop his guard. It tells him, you don't have to impress me, you just have to be real. And that creates a space of mutual trust, their mutual vulnerability, mutual desire. No one's performing. You're both just present, enjoying the moment, unfiltered and unscripted. And that's the kind of experience that sticks with a man long after the moment ends. Not because it was wild or shocking, but because it felt true. Realize that because she radiated something deep than attractiveness. She radiated wholeness. And here's what most people don't understand. A woman's confidence does enhance the physical connection. It elevates the emotional experience. It makes him feel more connected, more alive, more himself. It awakens something in him that goes beyond desire. It touches something in his soul, and that's the kind of connection that makes him crave more, not just more sex, more her. Realize that their confidence without ego is rare, but when a woman brings it into intimacy, it transforms everything there. She doesn't just become unforgettable because of what she did. She becomes unforgettable because of who was wild doing it, present, powerful, and profoundly at peace with herself. What many people completely overlook when it comes to intimacy and what truly makes sex unforgettable for a man is not just what happens during, but what happens after. The world teaches us to focus on the act, the heat, the performance, But very few people talk about the afterglow, the tenderness that lingers, the subtle emotional moments that imprint themselves on someone's memory long after the passion has faded. Because here's the true thing, the moments that stay with a man forever are often not the ones where everything was wild or perfect. They're the quiet, human, emotionally charged moments that follow. They're the way she rests her head on his chest without a word, the way her fingers gently trace invisible lines across his skin, the soft laugh after a shared joke, realize that the lazy conversation about something random, or even just the silence, not awkward, but comfortable, where nothing needs to be said at all. Those are the moments that hit different because they signal something deeper. They say, this wasn't just physical, this was real. And most men, whether they admit it or not, are starved for that kind of intimacy, the kind that says, you don't have to entertain me, you just have to be here. After sex, his walls are down. His nervous system has relaxed. He's no longer in performance mode. He's open, emotionally available, perhaps even vulnerable in a way he rarely allows himself to be. And in that window, in that fragile, precious space, what you do matters. A simple touch, a kind look, a moment of genuine affection. These are the things that make the experience unforgettable. Not because they're grand gestures, but because they're real. And most of us live in a world that feels increasingly fake. The woman who understands the power of those quiet moments, who leans in, holds space, brings warmth and not withdrawal, is the woman who doesn't just leave a physical memory, she leaves an emotional imprint, and that imprint stays there. It becomes the thing he thinks about in quiet moments, the energy he compares others to, because it wasn't about being perfect. It was about being present. It wasn't about showing off. It was about showing care. And the irony is, while people obsess over how to wow someone in bed, they often forget that the real intimacy, the kind that makes someone crave you, miss you, remember you, is built in those unspoken moments right after, when your guard is down and your heart is open. If you want to be unforgettable, learn to hold someone not just with your body there, but with your energy after the fact. Be the one who makes him feel safe to stay, not just excited to arrive there, because unforgettable sex is not just about the act itself, it's about what you build around it and the moments of affection that follow. Those are the ones that echo long after the night ends. Let's be honest, in a world obsessed with appearance, performance, and physical gratification, it's easy to believe that unforgettable sex is all about chemistry and physical compatibility. But let me tell you something most men will never say out loud. What truly makes sex unforgettable isn't the intensity of desire, the wild positions, or how technically good it was. It's the emotional connection that underpins it all. That's the secret most people miss, because while physical attraction may draw a man in, it's emotional intimacy that keeps him there, mentally and emotionally. It's what makes the experience mean something. When there's emotional connection, sex comes more than just bodies moving. It becomes an experience of being seen. It becomes a moment where walls fall down, masks come off, and two people meet in their most honest, unguarded state. And for a man who's been taught for most of his life to suppress emotion, to be strong, to never be too soft, that kind of connection is rare, and it shakes something inside him. To feel not just wanted, but known. When a woman sees the man behind the surface, behind the jokes, the confidence, the performance, and still reaches for him, not just with her body, but with her heart, it activates a different kind of memory, a deeper one. And he might not even be able to explain it, but he will feel it, because now sex is no longer about validation or escape. It becomes about truth, presence, and emotional safety. And that kind of connection lingers. It's what he thinks about when the night is quiet and his mind wanders back. It's what he misses, not because it was hot, but because it felt whole. And here's the thing, emotional connection isn't about having a serious talk or pouring your heart out mid-act. It's in the energy you bring. The way you look at him when he's vulnerable. The way you let yourself be open, honest, unguarded. The way you say, I see you, without saying a word. That's what makes him want to stay, not just for sex, but for you. And the woman who understands that, who values emotional connection and builds trust first, is the woman who becomes unforgettable, not just in the bedroom, but in his life. Because in a world of fleeting connections, she becomes the exception, the person who made him feel deeply, the person who made him feel safe to feel it all. And that is everything. Emotional connection doesn't just amplify the physical, It transforms it. It brings meaning, memory, and soul into something that's too often reduced to mechanics. So if you're asking what makes sex unforgettable for a man, this is the answer, not what she did, but what they shared, something real, rare, and rooted in the heart. That's what he never forgets. There's a moment, and maybe you felt it, when intimacy shifts from just something physical to something far more powerful, significant. And when that happens, everything changes. Because as much as we've been led to believe that men separate sex from emotion, that they're only interested in the physical, the truth is far more nuanced and human. What makes sex unforgettable for a man isn't just how it felt in his body, it's how it echoed in his soul. It's when he realizes, sometimes in the middle of it, sometimes quietly after, that this isn't just sex. It's not just an escape or a transaction or a story to tell. It's something bigger. It's the moment when a woman makes him feel that he matters, not because of what he's done or what he's achieved, but for who he is at his core. And suddenly, it's not about conquest anymore. It's about connection. When a woman brings emotional depth, presence, and truth into the space, she transforms what could have been fleeting into something unforgettable. She makes the moment mean something. And in a world full of casual hookups and surface level attention, meaning is rare. Meaning is magnetic. Meaning is what lingers. When a man feels that the intimacy shared with a woman carries emotional weight, that it reflects care, vulnerability, trust, it marks him. Because deep down, whether he admits it or not, he's craving that kind of significance. He wants to be someone that matters. He wants to feel chosen, not just for his body or what he can give, but for his heart, his mind, his essence. When she looks at him like he's more than just a body, when she treats the moment like something sacred, not just sexual, he starts to feel something he didn't even realize he was missing: value, not status, not pride, but real emotional value. And the intimacy takes on a different texture. It's no longer about, was it good? It's about, did this change me? Did this open something in me? That's what unforgettable sex does. It doesn't just satisfy, it awakens. And the woman who creates that kind of space, who leads with depth instead of performance, who values meaning over momentary thrill, she becomes the memory, not the highlight reel, not the fantasy, but the one he thinks about when he wonders what it would feel like to be truly home with someone. Because when sex holds significance, becomes a language of the heart, a way of saying, I see you, I value you, I choose you, without needing to say anything at all. And that kind of intimacy, that's not just unforgettable, that's life altering. That's what men carry with them in silence. Not just the night, but the feeling that they were deeply known and still loved. That's the real magic. That's when it's not just sex, it's something sacred. So when we ask the question, what makes sex unforgettable for a man, we have to be willing to move beyond the shallow answers, beyond the illusions of flawless bodies, fiery passion, or cinematic perfection, and dive into the truth, the kind of truth most people don't talk about, but every man feels, whether he admits it or not. Because at the end of the day, the unforgettable moments aren't made by the technique. They're made by the truth inside the connection. It's the emotional safety that allows him to be vulnerable without fear. It's the presence, the genuine, mindful, in the moment energy that makes him feel like he's the only person in the world to you right then. It's the confidence without ego, the way you own your body, your pleasure, your value, without needing to dominate or impress. It's the way you wrap him in affection afterward, not letting the moment be defined by the act, but by the care and softness that follows. It's the emotional connection that runs through the entire experience like a quiet current, strong and steady, making him feel like sex with you isn't just physical, it's meaningful. And finally, it's the realization that what you shared wasn't just sex, it was significance. That he mattered to you, not just as a man, but as a person. That's what he never forgets. Not the details, not the angles, not the playlist, but the feeling that you saw him, that he was safe to feel, to let go, to be real. And in a world where so many people are performing, even in bed, the woman who chooses authenticity, emotional depth, an honest connection becomes unforgettable, not because she tried to be, but because she showed up as herself. And in doing so, she gave him permission to do the same. That's what makes him remember you, not for a night, but for a lifetime. That's what leaves a lasting mark. So if you ever wonder what makes you unforgettable to a man, it's not what you do with your body, it's what you do with your presence, your honesty, your warmth, your love. And that's something no one else can replicate because it's not a performance, it's you. And that your emotional, grounded, unfiltered feminine power is what will always stay with him.